Hello and welcome back to Wild Thistle Kitchen. Today I'm going to take you along as I prepare a care package for my college student. So I'm going to prepare some of his favorite foods and also shop from our pantry to fill his kitchen. So today this is the day before I'm getting the rice going because I'm going to be making fried rice. And I just did 4 cups of rice. This is some basmati that I've been wanting to use up. And then I do about 4.25 cups of water. I like to toast the rice first in some kind of fat and then add the water, let it come to a boil, reduce that to a simmer, cover it, and cook it for 20 minutes. And it will be perfect and fluffy, just like you see here. And then I spread that out on a sheet tray and I will let it come to room temperature and then put it in the refrigerator uncovered overnight. And it'll kind of dry out and make the perfect fried rice the next day. So now I am starting out with this. I'm making sort of a pot roast with these chuck roasts, but more basic. It's not going to have any veggies, or it's just going to be kind of a neutral but very flavorful shredded beef when it's done. That way my son can use it really however he wants, in burritos, in like rice bowls. It can be whatever he wants it to be. So I'm browning those chuck roasts just with salt and pepper, and then getting some onions and garlic ready to flavor the broth and of course the beef as it cooks. I'm just going to let this go in the oven for hours, pretty much all day, while I'm cooking other things, so it gets nice and tender. Browning those, taking them out of the pan, and then adding the onions, the garlic. I'm going to add some water and some of this bone broth concentrate. I don't have any homemade beef broth right now, so this is a nice little substitute to just have in the fridge or in the pantry whenever I need it. Add a splash of vinegar. Sometimes I'll add wine, but I didn't have any open. And then some bay leaves, and put the beef back in, kind of nestle it down in there. And that's it. Super simple, really delicious. It'll be nice and shreddy when it's all done. And then this is that rice after chilling, nice and dried out, not sticking together. I am going to get the fried rice started with some bacon. Bacon and kimchi fried rice is what this one's going to be. But I make fried rice out of just about any leftover meat, or sometimes just like a simple egg and onion fried rice. I'm using this onion that has sprouted, but I'm actually going to use those tops, kind of like you would use spring onions. So just chopping up my onion for the fried rice. I'm going to cook that bacon until it's crispy, take it out of the pan, and then add the veggies. And fried rice is something that my dad made a lot when I was growing up, and I learned from him how to make it, and he made it the same way, kind of with whatever was kicking around, anything left over. And it is truly one of my comfort foods, probably my favorite kind of comfort food, and it's so easy to make. And my son also has inherited that love of fried rice. I had this kimchi in the fridge. Kimchi is great to have because it lasts for a very long time in the refrigerator. So if you are new here, we have been participating in the Three Rivers Pantry Challenge, and we have not grocery shopped except for like a few little fruits for our toddler in almost 2 months. So I am preparing all of this delicious food without having gone to the store, which is pretty remarkable. So I'm just adding in those veggies, some frozen veggies. I cook those until they're soft, and then I take those out, let the pan get nice and hot again, and cook my eggs. Take those out. And this is how my dad did it. He always did it in like stages, where he would remove something, put something else in the pan, and then kind of bring it all back together in the end. And that's how I make it. And so I'm doing this in 2 batches because it is a large amount of rice, and I didn't want to get 2 pans out. So I added about half the rice back to the pan, and then sort of divided those ingredients that I had already prepared. And now I'm just repeating it with the second half of rice. And I'll let this cool on the sheet tray, and then I will put it in the fridge and then transfer it to bags for my son. He is about an hour and a half away, and we visit him pretty often. But I love to bring him some homemade food, of course, when we visit, and of course he loves it too. So I'm taking advantage of this day and just preparing a lot of really good food for him. And here is a treat for him, and I'm sure for some of his friends down there, making some homemade chocolate chip cookies. I'm just making the dough though. You'll see I'm going to scoop the dough balls and freeze them, and then transfer those to bags so he can bake fresh cookies whenever his heart desires. And it's nice doing it that way because the cookies will be really fresh when he eats them, and if he wants 2 cookies, he can bake 2 cookies. He doesn't have to have a whole tray full at once. And he is in an apartment, so he has the ability to bake in a real oven, which is nice. But yeah, I'm just making some basic chocolate chip cookies, really loading my mixer because I'm doing a double batch. So I wrapped that towel around so the flour wouldn't fly up everywhere. And now I'm just going to scoop them, give it a good scrape around, and then scoop them onto a parchment lined tray. And then I put this right in the freezer just like this. And once they're completely frozen, I'll put them in big Ziploc bags and put them back in the freezer. And now back to that beef. It's been cooking away for hours and it is very tender. So I'm just going to pull it out of the liquid that it cooked in. And I rarely use this fat separator, but it really comes in handy for stuff like this where you want to get the juices, but you don't necessarily want it to be really greasy and fatty. So I pour that in there, and then I add some of the liquids back, so when it cools down and you reheat it, it still has some moisture to it. And then just packaging up that fried rice now that it's cooled. I probably could have fit it all in one bag, but I just wanted to give him the option if he wanted to put one bag in the freezer and keep one in the fridge. He's become quite the little chef down there, so he does kind of meal preps on the weekends, and he can actually use this, divide up some of the rice, some of the beef into his meal prep containers if he wants to. And then putting that beef in a bag and sticking those in the fridge. They're all ready for when we head out tomorrow to go visit him. And then I felt like I just needed to do one more thing because I am who I am. And I had these puff pastries in the freezer that were just in there. They've been in there for a while and I wanted to use them up. So I'm making a kind of like a cream cheese Danish. And they turned out really, really good. I will link the recipe that I referenced below. I didn't follow it exactly, but it was kind of a guideline, and they did turn out very good. The cream cheese mixture I added just a little bit of flour to, because instead of just using yolks, I used the whole eggs. So it was a little looser than I think it would have been if I followed the instructions. So I just added a little bit of flour to thicken it up, and it worked out really well. It made it like a cream cheese kind of, or not a cream cheese, a cheesecake type filling, and it was really good. And these were pretty fun to make, kind of a different little treat. I don't make things like this very often, but they turned out really good. And I saved some, of course, at home for us and for the other kids, so they wouldn't be jealous. But yeah, and then using up some of this jam that I've had also kind of lingering that I wanted to use. And like I said, it's pretty remarkable that we're able to make all of this delicious food with just what we had lying around the house. And I have been having a lot of fun in this pantry challenge. It's been, I don't know, it's really, I'm already creative in the kitchen, but this got me really creative, and I'm going to make a video about kind of our experience. And there they are, all done. They turned out really cute, really flaky and nice. And I also will let those cool, and then as you see, I let them cool and put them in bags. And here are those frozen dough balls going into some bags. It definitely makes me feel really good to give my son homemade goodies when he's far, far away in college, working hard. I like knowing that he has something from home there with him. And there are those nice little flaky pastries. And then I am kind of doing a little pantry shop for him from our pantry, things that I know he likes and things that he'll use up, and keep him from having to go to the grocery store too much down there, because we all know how expensive that is. And he makes rice a lot when he's doing his meal prep, so I'm also dipping into our bucket of rice. We get this in bulk from Azure Standard. This is jasmine rice, and I'm just giving him 2 nice big bags of it. And here all of that yummy food is. This is, if you watched my pantry and freezer tour, I had some chicken and black bean enchilada filling in the freezer, so I'm actually gonna just give that to him. He can use it in burritos or in rice bowls. And I'm also taking him some ground beef for the freezer. And these are some king cakes that I made for my blog that were just sort of like early tests. They're basically like a cinnamon roll dough. And I put them in the freezer, and I'm just gonna take them down to him. He can share them with his friends or keep them to himself. It's just nice to have. And there's the bag of the pantry items for him. I also added some pasta. It's an easy meal. And that's it. It's all, I'm gonna pack it all up, and we are heading out to spend the day with him. This was on a Saturday. We went down about an 1.5-hour drive, and we loaded all this food up in his fridge and his freezer and his pantry, and then we headed out to lunch and hung around a little while, and then headed back home. It was a really nice day. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It was fun for me to share this sort of food prep for my sweet boy, and I will be back soon in another video. Thanks for watching.